Good evening, and thank you for coming to tonight's City Council meeting. I wanted to let you know that the City Council is still in closed session. They will be coming down here momentarily. At this time, if you do have a speaker card, you may turn those in to the City Clerk, sitting right here in front of me. And just to remind you, we are live broadcasting tonight's meeting on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube and on the website at westcovina.org/live, or go on YouTube and look for the City of West Covina. Thank you, and the meeting will begin shortly. Good evening, and thank you for those of us joining us for tonight's West Covina City Council meeting. As a reminder, the City Council is still in closed session, and they will be joining us momentarily. If you would like to fill out a speaker card for tonight, those are the yellow cards as well as the orange position slips that are located back at the front table when you enter the room. You may turn those in to our Assistant City Clerk before the meeting begins. Thank you, and thank you for your patience.
If we can get the city manager and the city attorney, we'll go ahead and start.
She said.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting of the West Covina City Council to order. We'll start with an invocation that will be led by Pastor Pete Moorhead from New Hope Community Church. If you can please rise, and then I will go ahead and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Council members, would you bow your heads with me? Father, first we would like to thank you for all that you've done for us. Thank you for the life you've given us. Thank you for the families that we enjoy. Thank you for the city we live in. Thank you for the safety that we have here. We thank you for our police department and the danger they face for our sakes. We thank you for our fire department. Thank you for the city council. Lord, we know that there's many pressures upon them. There's many tough issues to decide, and we thank you for them. And in the scripture, Father, you commanded us to pray for those who govern us. And so we do. Lord, we pray for them. We pray for their wisdom this evening. Wisdom to govern and with the conflicting interests and issues of our city. Wisdom for the budget that they're working through right now. We pray that you give them a sense of welfare for the true needs of our people, a thirst for justice and righteousness. We pray that you'd give them confidence that what they do matters. And we pray that you give them personal peace in their own lives. And so we pray for the agenda that you have set before them tonight. Give them wisdom, help them to govern with justice and fairness and with a desire for the welfare of the city of West Covina. We pray these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Moorhead. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Toma?
Here.
Councilmember Warshaw?
Here.
Councilman Wu?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Spence?
Here. Ms. City Attorney, are there any items we need to report out from closed session?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no reportable action taken in closed session this evening.
Mr. City Manager, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Just one change, which is before you this evening, which is a correction on the City Council agenda item number 13, which is the site access agreement for LA Ricks. There is a modified agreement that was being submitted for your consideration to reflect the transfer of the successor agency properties and whatnot.
Okay, does everybody have that? And if anyone in the public wants it, please let us know so we can get you that copy, because that is on the consent agenda right now. Okay, we have presentations. Yeah, unfortunately, the person that we're going to present this to tonight had to have surgery and was hospitalized and can't accept it. But May is Lupus Awareness Month. And I don't know if there's somebody here that has a family member or somebody that suffers lupus that'd like to come up here and accept it, but I'd be happy to do that. I know lupus is something that affects 1.5 million Americans. They don't know the cause of it. 5 million people worldwide, and I know my family's been personally touched by it. I remember when I had to take my wife to the emergency room. And the thing about lupus is doctors have a hard time diagnosing it. And she went through, doctors saying, oh, this is normal. It's normal to gain 40 pounds of weight overnight kind of thing. To turn out that her kidneys were under attack from lupus. And she had to be hospitalized, and we had to deal with that. So it's predominantly a female disease. About 90% of it affects women. 10% affect men, so it isn't exclusive. And there's been a lot of different studies on sources of it, but it's something to be aware when you talk to your doctor. If people are having problems finding it's an immune disorder, to make sure they talk to them about it and make sure they do look at that, especially if they can't find anything wrong. So I don't know if there's anyone here that would like to accept this, but on behalf of, I'd like to declare May Lupus Awareness Month. So please be aware, and please, if your loved ones suffer from it, please be recognizing of that. And can we get this? Yes, please come up. Great. Awesome. That's great news. That is great news. So on behalf of the City of West Covina, we'd like to declare May Lupus Awareness Month and present this to you and take a photo.
I will give it to her. No.
Thank you very much. Next, if I could have Chino come forward. May 20th through May 26th is National Public Works Week. And who else do you have come up here?
We have some of our Public Works staff.
If you can come up here. Public Works, they do all the stuff that a lot of people don't see. When something goes wrong underneath ground, when stuff goes wrong above ground, they're the ones that get the call, they get the emergencies. They're the ones that get the sewer calls. And they do a lot of important work. And May 20th to 26th is National Public Works Week. And on behalf of the City of West Covina, we thank you for your service, and we'd like to declare it that week. Do you have something you want to introduce yourselves, or how do you want to do this?
Again, my name is Chino Consunhi. I'm the Public Works Director, City Engineer. I've been here for 3 years. I have here with me my staff, so I'm going to have them introduce themselves and just say which division or section you work in.
Good evening. My name is Gilbert Luna. I'm with Parks and Buildings, and been here about a year and a few months. It's been a pleasure serving West Covina.
Hello, my name is Sami Arvizu. I work in the sewer section of our Public Works Department.
Good evening, my name is Ed Rochelle. I work in the street department. I joined the city February 2001.
My name is Kei Yoshino. I'm with Public Works Maintenance. I'm the supervisor for Parks and Facilities Maintenance.
I'm Mark, Graffiti Abatement, less than a year.
I'm Micah Martin, the Public Works Superintendent.
And good afternoon. I'm Monica Heredia. I oversee traffic and engineering and public works, and I'll be here almost a year pretty soon. Glad to be here.
So if you have problems with your streets, grab them on your way out. If you have a problem with the parks, grab them on the way out. If you have a problem with the speed limits, take your pick. They're the ones that can help you out. If you have a problem with the maintenance districts, what else do I got? If you have a problem, please grab them. They're the ones that serve you. They do a great job. And we'd like to declare May 20th and May 26th National Public Works Week. So thank you. Can I have Department Engineer Sean Wise? Are you here? Ah, there you are. Looking up. And if I could have George Ogden come up from our VFW. Want me to turn over to you?
Sure. Hello, my name is Sean Wise, and I've got Kyle Hargrove here from the West Covina Firefighter Association. One of the things that that our association prides itself on is our community outreach. About a year ago, the West Covina VFW building sustained some significant water damage, and costly repairs put them in financial trouble. Last month, some of you may remember, but we had a Tip of Firefighter event at the Chili's in West Covina, and we raised money to help offset the cost of those repairs. And tonight we're here with Mr. Ogden to present them with the check for the money that we raised. Do you want to say anything?
Sure, if I may.
Okay, sure.
Myself and the rest of the VFW members and their auxiliary really appreciated what all these chick magnets did over there. I mean, they had a great time. We had a wonderful time. They even brought their old engine in that Sean here rescued. And I have to tell you, I really appreciate these people. We appreciate what they've done for us, and we're looking forward to having you guys come by for lunch sometime. Maybe even dinner. We might even feature that. So again, thanks a lot for the cleanup over there as well.
And thank you, West Covina firefighters, for supporting something that's very important to our community. The VFW is an important part of our community, and we appreciate your help to them. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. And finally, if I can have our police chief, Mark Taylor, and Lieutenant Ben Shop, and Bill and Andy McIntyre, if you can come up, as well as our K-9 team. That's right. Who gets it first? You going to talk first?
Yeah, and then I'll hand it to Pat.
Yeah, and them. Okay. Sure. All right. How do you want to do this?
Yeah,
That's a new one.
that's a new one. Good evening, everybody. First of all, before I hand the microphone over to Lieutenant Ben Shop, I just want to thank the McIntyres and everybody involved with our Friends of West Covina K-9. Their donations, their support to our organization really makes a difference. And we wouldn't be able to have the K-9 program that we have without their involvement and their generosity. So Lieutenant Pat Benshop is in charge of our K-9 program, and I'm going to put him on the spot and ask him to say a few words.
Thanks, Chief. I do love that. I really do. Can you tell? Hi, and good evening. Thank you for being here. Just a couple words, so it won't be too long-winded, I hope. Your K-9 team was down to about a dog and a half. We had an older dog ready to retire. We're going to be down to one dog about 4 or 5 years ago. We weren't looking at growing the unit because of budget constraints that were being felt statewide, even nationwide. But the good people of West Covina said that's not going to happen. The dogs are a force multiplier, they're an officer safety factor, they're a community factor. And they decided if the city and the budgets won't handle it, we will. Thus, the Friends of West Covina Police K-9s was born. This is a group of people that they're the salt of the earth. So what you're seeing in front of you now are 4 police K-9s, all of which have been funded through the Friends of West Covina K-9 and donations, and the city has had to fund none of that, their purchase and their training, which is incredible. Now on to this, I'm looking at that number, and this is, just incredible. It's incredible. And with the McIntyres, I can tell you this, in 2014, when the Friends of West Covina Police K-9s was born, they were there. Before that, they were there. They truly are invested in the community. They are truly invested in public safety. And ironically, this being Public Safety Memorial Week, Police Officer Memorial Week, these dogs save lives. Policemen here save lives. Even our fire guys save lives. Had to give you guys a plug. And it wouldn't be to the level it is now without the good people of West Covina and the extraordinary McIntyres. Actually, Andy was on the board of directors when we first got started, and they just don't quit. So I want to say thank you very much. And if I could say one more little thing, I've been asked by the Friends to announce, kind of a surprise, next year, because they love giving back to the community, they love giving to the dogs. Every Christmas they go to hospitals and give presents to children in the hospital. Fantastic group of people. Next year they're going to be helping kids go to college. So they're putting together some scholarship programs, one of which is going to be for business. And I think we've named it appropriately. It's a William McIntyre Scholarship for Business. So, sir, thank you very much.
Hello. I'm going to veer off just for about 35 seconds before I don't get to talk very often. I don't get to be up here as much as I used to. First of all, I was very fortunate to be included in a trip that the West Covina arranged, the city council arranged to go to mainland China. We were there for, I don't know, about 11 days and about 11 banquets. You can tell I get my share of food, and they overdid everything. But what I wanted to tell you was, at each one of the banquets, we would sit, it looked just like if you've been watching the news and see where the leaders sit up in front, and you have we got to go into all the facilities, just the same facility that the North Koreans were at, that Putin was at, that our dignitaries were at. We got to be there. So as soon as I wanted to just pass on that your representatives, Mr. Tony Wu and Mr. Corey Warshaw, represented this city extremely well. They look better than most of the politicians that get up there and talk on TV. I was very proud to be associated with the city of West Covina, and I just want to tell you how much it is. And I particularly, the head for me was, we got to have a special banquet in where the highest go, and I walked in there and I asked the people, where does President Putin, where did he sit? He said, right there. He says, well, I'm going to sit right there. And I got to sit in his seat. We had the chef come out that produced the same meal that they had. And it was really a little guy from West Covina. I went to school here. I got to sit at the same table. I got to be at the same place with the highest leaders in the world. And I just want to thank West Covina for giving me that opportunity. Enough said there. A number of years ago, our firm and my family have been here for 70 years. And we're in the real estate business of building buildings and renting them. We can do what we can do at the facilities to keep them clean, nice, do what we can for our tenants. But there's a couple of things we can't do. Fire department, they protect our buildings and the safety of the people around. They are very special to us. The police department, they're another. And I look at the West Covina Fire Department and the police department as partners with us. They do something that we can't do, and they protect us. Having said that, there's always budget problems. 70 years, I've never heard where they got plenty of money. Everybody got problems. And it became obvious to us that hiring or donating money for the police was not really the most effective way. To keep the police safe and to be just as close as we can to another police officer, we realized that a police dog does a wonderful and many things. It protects the police officers. The dog will do things that they won't. When they go and do some kind of police work and they mention the word, dog, I would suspect that a lot of the people who are being chased or whatever, give up on that. So it became obvious to us that we could get into the dog situation. So when the opportunity arose, it was easy for us to say, we want to support them. And I want to have a situation where the West Covina Police Department has the best canine department that they possibly can have. And I know when those dogs are out there, I'm helping, my family's helping in any way we can to make those police more effective. And the police are so valuable to us that if that dog can save over years, can save one of our policemen, we are very happy to do that. So we want to thank, not so much that we're able to do this, we want to thank the city of West Covina for making the opportunity for our family to flourish and to be able to do these things. We hope to my grandfather started our business. My father was here for 35 years, and I've been here now for 40 years, and Andy's now coming on, and we will be a friend to the West Covina Canine for as long as I'm around. So I just want to thank you very much for that and turn it over to our dogs, and they're very special to us. Thank you.
you want to introduce the dogs?
Can I introduce the dogs real quick? Yep. So from my side and back, this is Rico and Officer Rodriguez. Rico's our local hero. He was actually shot in the line of duty a couple of years ago, apprehending a murder suspect. And he's back, and he's bad, and he's awesome. He's also a bomb detector that works special events all around the county. This is Rec and Officer Bowman. He does double duty, well, triple duty. He's a bad guy dog. He finds guns, and we also use him as one of our equestrians. We ride him around as our minor enforcement team. This is Officer Foreman and Ronan. Ronan's a double duty, narcotics detection and bad guy detection. And this is our newest dog. This is Rye. And Officer Asidi. And he's been on the street 3 weeks now? 3 weeks. And he's also narcotics and bad guy detector. So this is your West Covina Police K-9 team.
You want to say something, Andy? You okay? Andy's okay. He said enough said. But actually, enough can't be said about the McIntyre family and their support of West Covina. I mean, when you think of legacy in West Covina, you guys truly exemplify it. And, of course, you can support them by going to McIntyre Square, the great businesses. They've done a great work here, so we appreciate you very, very much. Even you, Andy. We appreciate you too, Andy. Andy used to be a member of the council, and appreciate him very much and his efforts. So does anyone else want to say anything? Are you good? Okay.
Mayor, can we call them the
Friends of the West Covina, Friends of the West K-9, if you're all here, or
take a picture, group picture.
Yeah, anyone who
social media.
Come in here. Ashley, you're going to be on Facebook or whatever. Monica, thank you. And what's the amount of the check? $25,000. So thank you. Good. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, we appreciate it. You did pretty good. You did pretty good. Thank you very much. Okay, we have some public speakers. They're organized in the order of the individual minutes that they wanted. And to my amazement, we have one 1-minute speaker. That's Jim Grivich. And Jim will be followed by Wenwen Zhang.
Jim Grivich. I wanted to reinforce something that was said last night by Councilman Wu. I did a little research, and traffic citation revenue is very light in this city. I checked other cities, quite a few, and which are all substantially more. And by reference, I simply asked that the police chief and city manager look into it. I think considerable additional funds can be raised. And also, that reinforces some things that people have said at this podium relative to their perception that there are places in this city where people habitually don't ignore the traffic laws. And so I just wanted to ask that that be looked into. Thank you.
Wenwen Zhang, followed by Carlos Lifoshu. These are all three still.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, the staff, and the members of the community. My name is Wenwen Zhang, and I'm the West Covina Library Manager. I'm happy to make a few announcements about the library. West Covina Library is one of the vote by mail drop-off locations for the June general election. A locked and secured drop-off box is located in the library, so you can easily see it when you walk into the library. The box is already there until June the 5th. And also, West Covina Library will be one of the early voting polling locations for the June election. The voting will take place in the library meeting room from June the 1st through June the 3rd. Voting hours are from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this month, May, is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. The library will have a special program to celebrate it. We will have an introduction to Confucius presentation next Monday, May the 21st at 6 o'clock p.m. Confucius Live and his sayings about education, about how to conduct oneself in society, and about the core of his thoughts will be discussed at the presentation. For children and the families, the library will have a magic show for you this Saturday. The show will be presented by professional magicians and illusionists Raphael and Katia. This dynamic duo have been performing at libraries for over 10 years. So that will be a lot of fun and patience, the audience participation. So I don't think you want to miss it. The show will begin at 2 o'clock this coming Saturday. The library will have another free concert in May. Folk rock singer John Yock from the Byrds will sing songs of the 60s, played on a 12-string guitar. The concert is on Saturday, May the 26th, and it begins at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I also wanted to mention that the library now has a new service of wireless printing. You can visit West Covina Library or any LA County libraries and print directly from your laptop, tablet, or mobile device using the wireless printing. Customers can print 10 free pages per day. Each additional page is 15 cents. So for okay, the library is at the city civic center right across the city hall. So for more information about library services and programs, please come to the library. Thank you.
Carlos Lifoshu, followed by Vicky Schlega.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Carlos Lifoshu. I'm here to speak on the issue of the active transportation plan. As a 36-year resident of the city, I've seen an enormous change. I live along the Walnut Creek bike path, and I've seen an enormous amount of change for the bad along that wash. We've had graffiti problems. We've had issues with fights breaking out back there, drug use, alcohol, and drug and alcohol use by youngsters, teenagers for the most part. We've had them climb on the fence, onto our roof, spray painted the second-story wall of our home, along with our satellite dish. I've provided pictures in the past of all the problems we've had in the graffiti, the extent of the graffiti, which you could see from Google Earth. That's how bad it was on the pavement of the bike path. So I'm here to urge the council to vote no on this issue, because as it relates to crime, nothing good can come out of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vicky? Followed by Mr. Shoemaker. Real quick, that was on the active transportation program, but we are going to reopen our public hearing, so the rest of you that signed up for that, we're going to go ahead and do it during that time period. Okay? Just so everybody knows. Vicki, and then followed by Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you, council and spectators. I am here to talk about Night on the Town. It's coming up next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow. Come out, have good food, buy a whole lot of stuff out of our silent auction. All that money that we get and we raise goes back into the community. Not only eye screening, but for wheelchairs for the people that can't afford it, glasses for people that can't afford it. It's going to be a good time. We have 3 new restaurants that will be joining us, and I see that one of them is here tonight from Craft Hill, so he will be one of our vendor restaurants. So it's going to be a good time. If you need tickets, let me know. That's it.
John Shoemaker, followed by Carolyn Arndt. Is Carolyn here? Carolyn? Okay, it's here.
Good evening. One of the items is basically, and it's related to budget, would be, conceivably some sort of tax. One of them would be, one of the ideas is additional sales tax in the city. We're looking at the budget that says how much money we get from sales tax. It's around $17 million, is it? If we did a half a cent tax, we get $8.5 million. Problem for this year, solved next year, we're right back where we started. Be, a couple, $2 or $3 million in debt. So, what are you going to do? Make it 0.75%? Okay, puts the problem off for 2 or 3 years, and we'll be right back where we are today. And the reason is very simple. You don't look at what you're spending. You've approved, after the city manager told you that $1 million worth of pay increases would have no impact on our budget. I don't fault the people asking for the pay raises. I mean, I know I have to pay bills too. I ask for raises. But the problem that comes up is when you're told there's no impact. And there is. One of the things that you've talked about is, trying to get other governmental agencies to pay, different parts of the budget, like crossing guards. Well, one of the problems that some of them have of saying, okay, we'll do it, is you don't have money for crossing guards, but you have $90,000 to put up gates or fencing at City Hall. Well, where's the priority? You don't have money for fire and police, but you find $400,000 to do new cabling and computer upgrades in the city. Where's the priority? And I think that's what the problem is that most people in the city have that I talk to, is the lack of city leadership to be able to say, this is what our priorities are, this is what we're going to fund first, and everything else goes by the wayside until that. When you do that, I think you're going to see a lot more support from the public, from other governmental agencies to work with you. Going to them when you want more money for the lighting and maintenance district and saying, if you don't approve this, we're not going to cut trees, and those trees will break off and fall on the children who are walking to school. Well, the response you got from my daughter was, come back when you have, or what's your plan? Well, we're putting one together. Come back when you have one. So show us what you're doing to deserve more money and the support of different people, including the public. Thank you.
Carolyn Arndt, followed by Gail Mason.
Good evening, Mayor Spence, Pro Tem Lloyd, Corey, James, Tony. I walk better because of healthy aging that you're pushing on the screen. Gabriella Klein is excellent. It's totally free. It's an hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's for old people. And it takes care of cringes in your hinges. among other things. But my posture better, everything is better. It helps your head, let me tell you. And it helps us to continue with meet and greet. Now, you know, it's almost been 2 years, and this week is cancer. And I learned something very interesting from the window. They have done a wonderful job with the window. Do you know that 1 in 3 women are probably going to be diagnosed with cancer? Hey, it's even worse for you guys. It's 1 in 2. So we're celebrating the survivors of cancer. We want it to be upbeat and exciting, and we want to have fun. So that's what we're doing Friday night, 6:30 to 8:30. I have one flyer here. They're out on the website. There are a few up there, and that's for you. Now, this is a whole nother issue. This is the Sunday paper from November the 19th of 2017. If you will look, that's a swimming pool. 5 million children die a year. Of course, they're not our kids. They're probably those refugee children that are going across those turbulent seas. 5 million children a year. I couldn't believe it. In America, drowning is the leading cause of death for children younger than 4. How about that? The second leading cause of death for children under 14. So we can't wait for heated pools. We can't wait for anything fancy. We have to teach our children to swim. I learned to swim in a lake with minnows and leeches. My brothers swam at the gravel pit. There were no adults around. And the farm kids were in a swimming hole, and they swung out from a rope and dropped down. I didn't even see a swimming pool until I was in high school and went to the YWCA. I mean, boy, that was off my perimeter. But it's important that we get our priorities straight. It's the only sport that you can do for your entire life, and it's healthy. So we need to find some money for 3 months for kids to learn to swim in West Covina. Bainbridge pulled back because their pool wasn't heated. That is not a legitimate reason to not offer swimming. That's pampering children when we should be saving lives. Thank you.
Gail Mason, these are 3 minutes. These are 3 minutes. These should be 3 minutes. Yeah. Gail Mason, followed by Sandra Taylor.
Good evening. How do you follow Carol? She's fantastic. I just have a couple things I wanted to say. First off, I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, that we're not going to participate in the LA County Fair. Now, that was really important to our Volunteer of the Year, and I think it was important for citizens. And you don't have to pay for us to go. I think it's important. You do? Okay, you can
Sorry.
pay for me.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, but what I'm saying is, if we don't have the money, I know that there's a lot of us that would go and support our Volunteer of the Year. I think it's important. That was one of the things that they went to. And another thing I'm just bringing up really fast is that a couple weeks ago when we had the Sanctuary City thing here, and I left around 10 o'clock or something, I wanted to say how proud I was of you 5 and how you handled yourself. I have never been in a room that was so hate-filled in my entire life, and I never want to do it again. And I was really proud of all of you because you maintained such a great attitude with such negativity here. The only thing I was going to say was that a sanctuary city, to me, is a safe city. But it's got to be safe for everybody. It can't be a sanctuary city for these people, but not for these people. But probably fortunately for me, I didn't get up and say that, but I just wanted to let you know that I was very proud of all of you. Thank you.
Just to clarify real quick, because I said we do, is that we did get an offer to do West Community Day at the fair, but it would cost $600, right?
We can have Ms. Preciano address that now, or do you want to wait till
No,
after
just,
everybody's done?
I mean, that's, if somebody wants to pay for that in the meantime, you know, we'd be willing to do the day, I'm sure. But it was like $500 or something, huh?
Would you like,
$6,000.
let me have Ms. Preciano respond
No,
now.
it's okay, $6,500. We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Sandra Taylor, followed by Elsie Messman, and that's 5 minutes now, after Elsie. Go ahead, Sandra.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I hate every time I come up here, I'm complaining. But you know, this complaint is justified. We participate in a recycling program twice a year of household papers and that kind of stuff. It happens in April and it happens in November. I started calling in April because I had April 28th as the date for recycling. I called the city manager's office 3 times at least and left voicemail messages. Did I receive a return call? No. I called in May. I was told, oh, it's going to be April. It was April 21st. I go online, look, couldn't find anything. I called again. I was told it was going to be May the 12th, last week. Well, I made these calls back in early April and early May. Would you believe at 12:30 today I received an answer? Someone called me named Eric or whatever from maintenance department. He goes, oh, it was last week. I said, you mean to say it took 2 months for somebody to get back to me? This is ridiculous. You go online, you look at the salary that these people are being paid, it's absolutely ludicrous. $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 a month. Most of our stuff is farmed out to consultants. We used to come here to get our passports. Now we have to go over to Cameron. As residents, I feel as though I don't have any benefits, but yet still I'm paying my taxes. I'm supporting you. So what are you doing for me? Nothing. And I agree with the gentleman who was up before me about this city is too small for us not to have any other benefits. The 4th of July thing was taken away from MDA. We used to have a great time. Now we got to go up to Little Dreams, whatever it's called. But anyway, that's my complaint. I'm just wondering why it takes so long to get a response to a simple question. Thank you.
Elsie Messman, followed by Jamie Lee.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and everyone here tonight and at home. I'm back again. Item 11, the planning consultant for on-call service for $75,000. Back on October 17, 2017, you wanted $100,000 for arts in public places. This is only so you don't have to get it approved by council. Stop playing your games. They should not even be on the council's list. Item number 15, do we really need 8 new trucks at the same time? You get a few extra dollars and it's burning a hole in your pocket. It would be nice to be more profitable if we put money into solar on the roof of the parking lot. Could save a lot of money for the city. Now, some time ago, I suggested that all gardeners doing business in the city of West Covina get a license, whether it's $50, $100 a year, whatever. But I guess it's too much for staff, or maybe a consultant is necessary. At last night's meeting, the city manager said the graffiti people were also cleaning parks. That's not their job. If there is no graffiti, you lay off that person. Why are we paying salary, benefits? You know, you gotta use your head. There's less graffiti now than in previous years, thanks to our police department. So far, the city has spent around $30,000 for paint and supplies. Checking with the previous contractor for 16 months, they paid around $2,000, $20,000 I should say, a difference of $10,000. So how are we saving money? This city is charging graffiti to the general fund, to the tax fund, successor housing agency for a total of $30,000. And now they're charging graffiti to our maintenance department. I thought we were part of West Covina. Unbelievable. Our light poles on the paseos are a mess. I have talked to the painter for 35 years experience in the paseo, in painting, and he said the paint is peeling due to the sun and water. First you scrape it, you sand it, you prime it, and you paint it. I don't believe the city graffiti people are up to the task. And the last item, this is regarding Councilman Warshaw's placing a tax on the ballot. This is a poor excuse for saving the city. The taxpayers are being hit in every direction. What part of wasteful spending do you all do not understand? Enough is enough. Remember, wasteful spenders can all be replaced. Thank you.
Jamie Lee, followed by Alfred Williams.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, council members, city staff, as well as members of the public. I apologize for having my back to you. My name is Jamie Lee. I am a resident of West Covina, and I'm here today to speak regarding accessory dwelling units. Some of you may or may not be familiar. I'm sorry, I'm trying to speak with everyone. Okay. I will address the council members, but I hope that the members of the public, if you're not aware, I'd like you to be aware of this because it affects you as well. So, accessory dwelling units, these are what other people refer to as granny flats, mother-in-law suites, guest houses, pool houses, a secondary unit on your single-family lot. So, I just wanted to bring to the attention of the public that the state law was passed to allow citizens like us to build these type of accessory dwelling units on our land. And the state law is very proportional. It says you can build one ADU on the back of your house. It's proportional to your main house. If your house is 1,000 square feet, you can only build 500, 50%, up to a maximum of 1,200 square feet. And it says that rear setback, separations, etc., are all based on fire and safety standards. So, who's following these state laws? LA County following state laws. San Diego just passed, they're following the state law. Pasadena as well is following the state law. Covina, Bell, it goes on and on and on. So I'm here today because I've been trying to encourage West Covina to follow the state law. And I have been engaging the planning director, the planning commission, city council as well with all of the information that I have found as it relates to me interacting also with the state senator's office that is passing these laws. So I wanted to provide you with that information. The state passes these laws to help citizens like us so that we can utilize land that we own to help build these homes, to house really, we're not trying to be slumlords. We're building these little guest homes, probably for our elderly parents. That's the case for me. My neighbor's trying to build a home for his blind sister. She's aging and she needs someone to care for her, but he can't do it because of West Covina's laws. And what I would like the public to know, as well as for City Council to know, is that the Planning Commissioner, they have already met. I just found out this evening that they met and they already made recommendations, and their recommendations do not meet the state statutes. So that's why I'm here to implore the City Council members to reconsider when it comes up for a vote on June 5th, to vote against it. This is what the main issue is. The four issues is, if you want to build a guest house, let me backtrack. There are two ways to build a guest house. You can attach it to your house, convert a garage, attach it to your house, in which case the state standard that I described, West Covina is following it, except West Covina is saying the maximum they'll let you build is only 800 square feet. And my question is, why do you limit the economic opportunity for people to build when the state says you can build up to 1,200 square feet? Second, West Covina is saying if you want to build a guest house but you want to detach it from your house, meaning a little pool house, a guest house in the backyard, if you don't attach it to your house, then all the rules are completely it does not match the state law. In fact, all of a sudden, you need to have a 12,000 square foot lot. And the city already knows that by imposing 12,000 square feet minimum, that excludes 80%. That means of all the members of the public that are behind me, 80% of you cannot build because your lot size is less than 12,000 square feet. So this law purposely is excluding people from being able to build. It requires a rear setback of 25 feet. But if you attach it to your house or convert your garage, it's only 5 feet. So why are there two different rules? It's not appropriate. And then if you want to build a guest house separate, you have to separate it 25 feet from your main house. I will argue that my neighbors want my guest house closer to my house than their house. So why do we need 25 feet when LA County, San Diego, everybody else, Covina, only requires 6 feet? We should follow the state law. And lastly, what's really important is the ADU size. I really can't emphasize enough, if the state allows you to build up to 1,200 square feet, but proportional, it's 50% of your main house up to 1,200, why does city feel the need to limit us to only 800 square feet? So, in summary, what I want to say is, I'd like West Covina to fight for your right. Whether it's attached or detached, the state law doesn't care. It's your land. You should be able to build it, whether you want to attach it to your house, Frankenstein it to your house, convert it to your garage, or you want it to be in the backyard, you can build. And all I'm saying is West Covina should have the same rules, whether you attach it or detach it. There's a lot of people, and I'm sorry, I'm out of time, but if people want more information, I will be on Nextdoor, or you can meet me on the way. I'll give you a lot of information. There's a lot of state statutes and things that would put us at risk for litigation if we continue down this path.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alfred Williams. Real quick, Union Nguyen, are you here? Are you speaking about active transportation? Yeah. Okay, so we'll put that to that hearing. Okay, and then followed by Fred Sykes. Mr. Williams.
Good evening, Council. My name is Alfred Williams. Over 40-year residence, West Covina. I guess I'm here on a few things, but on item 21, the report on spending, I kind of, by Mr. Tom, I agree with that. We need to know what the different organizations are actually spending to either oppose or support any candidate that's running in the city. And this, I don't want people to get it construed, because a lot of times we have people saying that it says something else than what it says. It says reporting, and it doesn't put any limits on it. It just says you have to report. Item 22 I also agree with, and that was one by Mr. Spence, and we very seldom agree on anything. Yeah, we shouldn't be taxing, having the people pay to tax themselves. That doesn't make sense. To have public officers going around creating reports that says you need to tax yourself. And also for item 25, really kind of depends on what you're going to do with item 22. So if you decide to support 22, then I guess 25 goes away. But we should be considering budget cuts rather than raising taxes to pay for things that we could probably solve with the budget cut. Now, last release, which I know Mr. Spencer's not going to like, but I just couldn't let it go by. He finally put us on the Southern California map, I guess. Mr. Spence was identified as being found in a hotel with drugs. Now, maybe this is the news is all wrong. Maybe they're arguing, as he has said, that somebody is trying to sabotage him. As I've told Mr. Spence before, I have a son that has the same problem. And he denies everything until now, because he suffered a heart attack and a stroke. So he can't do it anymore because it will kill him. He was in a coma for a week and a half. And Mr. Spence, you are still a drug addict until you admit that and quit blaming other people for your demise. Nobody is trying to kill your career. You are trying to kill your career. Thank you.
Mr. Sykes, followed by Claudia, how do you say the last name?
Gotia.
Gotia?
G-O-T-I-A?
It looks like A-Y, but
Miss
Gotia?
Gotia, yeah.
Okay. Miss Gotia?
Yes, Miss Gotia.
Looks like an A-Y. Okay. You're after Mr. Sykes.
You know, I wasn't prepared to come in tonight, but I'm here. So, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the staff, and members of the audience. I am Frederick Sykes, 40-year resident of this city. I am a former mayor, also retired deputy sheriff. Currently, I'm a commissioner for LA County. And all of my adult life, I've been a public servant. You know, this morning, actually it started last night. I got quite a few text messages. And then this morning, the phone started ringing off the hook. And it was about doing a recall here in the city of West Covina. And therefore, I decided to come in tonight and speak. In 2014, when I was a member of the City Council, shortly after Mike Spence was elected, he disclosed that he was involved in traffic collisions. At that time, I didn't know what the matter was. And in 2015, I discovered that he had a moral problem and that he operates for his causes by being vile and lying. In 2016, it became public information that our current mayor, Mike Spence, is a drug addict who often endangers his life and others. While sitting on the dais where he is right now, he admitted that he was a drug addict. He pled guilty in court and is currently, I believe, on probation. He was found unconscious in the city of Costa Mesa in a hotel room with illegal substances and such. And he was with some other unknown person, and it's obvious that that other person wants to remain silent. He was revived and transported to the hospital for further evaluation. His blood samples should be available for the Orange County DA and for his probation officer to conduct a much-warranted criminal investigation. He should be in violation of his probation because he is aiding and abetting drug cartels and drug dealers in our community and other counties. He appears to be frequenting places where illegal drugs are being used, being possessed, and he is constantly undermining the well-being of our community. Mayor Spence promised to step down if his drug scenario repeated. Well, here we are, and we know that he's a liar and that he is not a man of his words and promises, and he is a vicarious liability to the city. That means the taxpayer is going to pay when he gets involved in things that he says, hey, I was working. That's all he has to say. Now we're stuck. The City Council was voted into office and given the power to do what is best for the government and in the best interest of the people of West Covina. Now, it is time for the majority of the council to immediately make a motion to vote and remove Mike Spence from the position of mayor in the city of West Covina. Now, the residents can take action, but that's very costly. And it's pretty late in the election cycle right now to get the necessary signatures and documents put in good order. But you, as a supermajority of 4, can do what you failed to do a couple of years ago, and that was deal with this situation in an appropriate manner that's given within your power. We know you can't remove him from office. That's up to the people. But a supermajority of 4 can say, you know, we've been embarrassed enough. We've been embarrassed enough. We have taken risk. Wu took his promise, even though I knew from dealing with drug addicts as a police officer that that's a pretty empty promise. But Wu decided to give him a break. And then now, Warshaw did the same thing, tried to give him a break. Gentlemen, it's time for you to do the right thing for the people. Supermajority of 4, vote please. Thank you.
Claudia? Oh, there you go, thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council and community members. My name is Claudia Goitia. I am the Government Relations Director for the American Heart Association. Delighted to be back before you once again. Speaking to you in support of the proposed active transportation plan that is before you this evening, to advocate in support of this plan to, 1, address physical activity in the community, 2, to really take advantage of those tax dollars that community members are paying for, Measure M, SB1, ATP grant dollars at the state level. These are all opportunities that you can bring to the city of West Covina to address mobility. And you know, in making your decision on this vote, I want you to think about those residents that commute, that, you know, park their cars at the West Covina Mall and take the bus. Think about the students in the track team that run in your streets. And think about the seniors who oftentimes walk to move around the city. So I have a letter of support from the organization, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on this matter.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment. Mr. City Manager, do you want to comment on anything?
I do. If I can have Ms. Bresciani respond to the comment.
Is that letter being passed around?
Oh.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead.
If I can have Ms. Bresciani respond to the LA County Fair discussion first.
I apologize for interjecting there. Sorry about that, Gail. Sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, council, staff, and residents, the LA County Fair has gone through some changes over the course of the last couple of years, and we met with their reps, and they have faced budgetary challenges as well. And one of the things that cost them a lot of money is the community days, and that's for all of their partners in LA County. It is to the tune of about $100,000 for them to do the Community Hero Program, and so in an effort to subsidize, recoup costs, cut down, they are now asking cities to partner. The partnership is in the amount of $6,600, and that's actually to the Big Yellow Bus program. That's in conjunction with their Route 66 theme this year, and there is no more subsidy of parking or admission. Now, I understand Ms. Mason used to be on the Community and Senior Services Commission, so she's well aware of that program. And in addition, they just aren't running the Community Hero Program. Now, that $6,600 would get us an ice cream social for 40 people or something like that. I think we can do an ice cream social for more than 40 people for $6,600, and I just don't think that it's a good use of city resources. In addition, you know, we talked about using some transit funds to support the Big Yellow Bus program, but they're really looking for a cash donation, and we just can't do that at this time.
There is. One of the speakers spoke about phone calls to the city manager's office regarding shredding services. We're No, shredding. Yes, yes. And I can assure you, she did leave the messages on my voicemail. So I did receive them, and I did have a member of our staff contact her back, and they did speak to her prior to the event, but she was unable to attend that day. And then there was a follow-up conversation as well. And there was a follow-up conversation as well that she said was done today. That was a follow-up message with her as well. So we did have staff. The staff member is here, and I verified it with them. They did speak with her a little over a week ago. In addition, there was a comment about the planning consultant on number 11. Just to address that, this
item has been pulled from consent, so we'll talk about that.
Oh, it has been. Okay, we'll talk about that time then. Other than that, we'll allow the council to continue.
Okay, any other council members? Mr.
I think we should pull the 15 also, which was the CNG trucks also from.
I haven't gotten to that, but okay.
Oh, okay, got it. And then.
So you want 15 pulled as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, because somebody commented about that. And then there was a comment about the graffiti team, and it's actually good timing because I know the graffiti team's actually here. Mr. Manager, I know this came up on didn't this come up yesterday? Was it yesterday? So if you could just repeat some of the information about the graffiti team. I mean, I'll tell you, for those of you in the audience who don't use the app, it is very handy for graffiti in particular. I know our former mayor used to always talk about the app and about reporting, and I use it quite a bit myself because, frankly, the graffiti is the most common use for the app, at least for mine, certainly. I imagine for other people too, which if you just download the app and you happen to be anywhere in the city and you see graffiti, you can report it. It has the GPS coordinates. You can take a photo. It makes it much easier for the team to find. And I've actually enjoyed the response I've gotten from the team this year since we've implemented has been very good in terms of getting confirmation when the graffiti's been removed, which is very helpful. I think for the citizens and residents, it's good to get that feedback. So if you could just briefly comment about that.
I will. So 2 years ago, the city implemented its own graffiti abatement team here with 2 maintenance workers of our Public Works Department. At the time that we got the council approval of that program, we thought it was going to cost the city around $28,000 a year. We're actually only spending $150,000 a year to do the program. What's the benefit of not just doing the graffiti abatement, of having it in-house is as staff is out there, let's say at a city park or a city facility, and they see trash out there or there's been damage to the park, they can immediately start working on that versus when we have the private contractor, that contractor only removed graffiti and would have to call in and send out another crew to come out in order to take care of trash or other services in our park. The program has been very successful and it has been a cost-saving measure for the city.
Does that cover everything you wanted, Mr. Tillman? Okay, anything else? I did want to point out, Mr. Mark Taylor did mention, if you noticed, our flags were at half-staff today, and that is because it is the Police Memorial Day, and we've had 3 officers killed in the duty. And in fact, May is actually the anniversary month of the Supreme Court upholding the death penalty for one of the killers of our cops, and unfortunately, that has not been done in all this time. So, but that's why our flags are at half-staff. The only thing I wanted to mention concerning Mr. Sykes' remarks is one of my big concerns in this has been that this would discourage people from calling 911. If you think people need a medical emergency, please don't be discouraged by that. Call 911. If someone needs medical attention, please get them that. Don't let hate, bigotry, stereotypes, whatever, keep people from getting help. HR will get people help in West Covina or anywhere. If you're one of the 1 in 12 people that suffer from some kind of addiction. So whatever happens and everything will be played out, I'm not worried about that. Please call 911 if you think someone needs it, get medical attention, and get treatment. That's all I ask. And I don't want that negativity directed towards me for political reasons to discourage anyone from doing that. Are there any other items that we're going to take off consent? Right now, we are taking off items, according to my list, items number 11, 12, 16, wait, 15. We added 15, correct? 15, 16, and 19. Are there anything wrong with that? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the rest of the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Johnson and seconded by Mr. Wu that we approve the consent agenda with the deletions of items 11, 12, 15, 16, and 19. All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, excuse me.
I'll approve all except for number 9. I'll be abstaining. on the Prop A exchange with Foothill Transit because I sit on the Foothill Transit Executive Board.
Okay, so if there's no objection to consent, with the exception of item number 9, will be an abstention by Mr. Warshaw. Everything good? Okay, so the consent agenda is approved, 5-0-0, except for item 9, which is 4-0-1, with Warshaw abstaining. Okay, item number 11. Mr. Johnson, you asked to have that pulled.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mayor. I had this pulled because the planning consultant on-call service, I would like to have our city manager explain to the residents exactly what that means. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Member City Council. This item number 11, Planning Consultant On-Call Services. City staff is seeking your approval to bring MIG to be an on-call planning consultant for the city to do, in essence, plan checking for major developments. As you know, we have some potential large developments happening here over the next couple of years, including the Queen of the Valley Hospital master plan. We also have the Plaza West Covina, which is talking about a complete remodel, as well as a potential for the Singpoli development at the BKK landfill. All three of these entities have asked the city if it's possible to do on-call services where they can pay additional monies to have someone dedicated to work on just their project and no other. So when we bring these consultant on board like this is not money that the city is paying or the residents are paying. These are the monies that these actual individual businesses will be paying for these dedicated services. And the issue is here is that it's going to actually expedite their approval of their projects to make them that they come online a little bit quicker. So this is a service that we're going to be providing to businesses as they come into the community, and as another feather in our cap for trying to be more business friendly to those businesses wishing to pay these extra fees.
Mr. Johnson?
No, I'd like to move this item forward.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Johnson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Warshaw. Is there any objection to consent? Okay, it's approved 5-0. Item number 12. Mr. Wu, you pulled this?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, the reason I pulled this, this agenda, we have to, who's going to pay for this $500 million environmental, report? And how long it take? And when, Queens Valley is going to finish purchase to give us the money because it's been dragging for so long. And since we only charge them $1,500 for the so-called parking and for 2.5 acres, I will pay the $1,500, to get entire parking for myself and lease out for maybe $10,000 or $20,000. So I want to know when the Queens Valley to complete the purchase so city can get that, $3.5 million of a sales price. So that's my question.
Okay, I think there are several questions there. Staff?
I'll let Mr. Anderson respond.
In our conversations with the selected, our preferred recommended consultant, it's about a 10 to 12 month process to get an EIR completed. So we're looking at about 10 to 12 months.
Who pay for it?
Oh, it's paid for by the applicant. So Queen of the Valley would pay for it.
So you would take 12 months for this report?
It's an environmental impact report, and an environmental impact report takes 10 to 12 months generally.
Is that average time? I think some other company maybe only take us 3 months.
No, not for an EIR.
We cannot get this completion purchase for another year. So we won't see the money. We need the money.
Well, no, you're correct, but again, remember, the funds are not part of the city's general fund. They go in the park acquisition fund. So they won't, they are only if we exceed to acquire more property.
Our park fund need money too, right? We have a lot of...
No, this doesn't go to any of those other parks. This is only for expansion of our parks in the community or new equipment at those expanded parks. Can't be used for any of our current parks.
We purchased a couple of the lot, on the Cameron Park, and some of the, we need the money for that, right? We put a deposit, we purchase $1 million for that. We need this money to pay for that. Am I right?
So they've already advanced us, Queen of the Valley Hospital, $500,000, and we've already been authorized that they're going to give us another $500,000, so the city will be made whole towards the purchase of that property on Lark Island that we've already acquired. And we are charging rent for the current operation, so the city's making some revenue off of that as well.
So the projection, how long it takes? If it is 12 months, do they have any delay in the future after we get this report?
I'll defer to the city attorney.
The only possibility of delay is if litigation is brought as a result of
approvals that may result from the EIR. This particular project being what it is, I don't, hopefully that won't happen, but you know, I can never predict that.
And the following question, okay, then we get this environmental report, we have an issue. And now they already convert this entire to a parking lot. So how we, and the sale cannot complete, how can we convert back? Who's going to pay for it? If we cannot, if the environmental report has an issue, then we cannot sell to them, or the hospital cannot do any improvement, so what will happen?
Well, we have terms in our agreement about that. I don't recall them specifically off the top of my head, but
we have a non-refundable deposit for the future in case we have any damage, so they can convert into the grassy area, because when it's all cement, right?
They took upon themselves the potential liability of having removed some of the items that were there in anticipation that they would be making that purchase. But
so the question will be, do we have any non-refundable deposit from the buyers, so in case something happens, they don't purchase, so we can use that money to do the renovation back to the park?
Yeah, we could take money from the loan that they've advanced to us and repay, you know, less whatever those costs would be.
Is there a motion on this item? Council? I don't think he's moving it.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Warshaw and seconded by Mr. Toma to approve item number 12, which is the Queen of LA Master Plan Project Manager for a specific plan for the EIR preparation. I already figured that out. Let's go ahead and do a roll call. Although before we do, I'd like to say that I'm going to vote in favor of this, because if we don't vote for the EIR, we will never get it sold.
Correct.
Go ahead. Roll call, please.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye.
Spence?
Aye. It passes 4-1. Item number 15. Mr. Toma, you pulled this?
Thanks. Just there was a question about it from the public, so I thought it'd be good to have a presentation. Thanks.
The item before you tonight, it's for the purchase of 8 compressed natural gas vehicles, or CNG vehicles, to replace 8 that we have right now. The issue that we're having is that the fuel tanks for the CNG certification have already expired on all those vehicles. The cost to repair the vehicles are pretty high. They're way more than the salvage value of the vehicles. The mileage are anywhere between 54,000 to 135,000 miles, so they have pretty much used their lives. So it's definitely time to replace them. The funds that we are using are AB 2766, which are local return monies that we get from the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And these funds are normally used for air pollution reduction projects. Some of the eligible expenses include purchase, leasing of alternative fuel electric vehicles, alternative fuel infrastructure, electric vehicle charging stations, and the city is allowed to recoup 5% in administrative costs. Some of the expenditures that we have used, AB 2766 over the last 5 years, we've spent $70,000 in purchasing alternative fuel vehicles, $85,000 for the installation of EV charging stations, $830,000 for the CNG fueling facility that we have at the yard, and $33,000 for, as part of the air quality investment program, we have to do a Rule 2202 filing. So we've used that to file that annual report with AQMD.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add, I know that, you know, my automobile may have more than 35 or 50,000 miles, and I know people are saying, well, why do we need to replace them? It comes down to is safety of the vehicles. With the gas tanks no longer being certified, they're deemed hazardous for employees to be in, and they're not allowed to be in those vehicles or be utilized. So we do need to replace it for that reason alone.
I have a question on that item, and I know I've talked to you about this, and I'm still confused because you're right. It's a safety item, and there's an expiration date on it. 4 of these expired, 1 in 2015, 3 of them in 2016, and then the other 4 expired this year. So what I'm confused about is why did it take the Ford employees and that operation to find out that half of our vehicles were unsafe, and we had been having them out there based on this expiration date of our gas tanks. That's what I don't understand. Who was responsible for finding those at least 4, and why didn't we have those items come up in 2015 and 2016 rather than having all 8 tonight?
It may have been an oversight on our fleet maintenance staff, and it could be lack of training too. However, the fuel tanks are expired. No matter what, upgrading them will cost money, whether it was in 2014, 2015, 2016, or now. And the cost to upgrade the tanks, I think, is somewhere in the $9,000, $10,000 neighborhood.
Yeah, so it may have been an oversight, and it may have been a lack of training. Is that's the answer to why?
Well, I mean, it's hard to go back and see what happened 4 or 5 years ago. Well, based on the description from staff and actually Ford, you actually have to remove brackets in order to find the certification on it. So
when we purchase them, don't we know what the certification is, and don't we put that in some kind of file on what the certification is when it reaches this age? I mean, don't we do that kind of maintenance?
I don't believe we do it to that extent because, as you know, we don't have vehicles where, Mr. Michael Martin will be able to address it, but I will say that.
Are we going to do it on these 8? Are we going to do it on these 8? We're going to, we know where we're buying them. Are we going to put the tanks somewhere? We know that these expired at a certain time?
Well, I think we will now.
You think so? Yes. I just don't want it to be an oversight or lack of training that causes that.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit further on our discovery of the expiration of these tanks. At the time, we didn't have any mechanism in place to track the age of those tanks or the expiration of them. That was just knowledge that we didn't have in our vehicle maintenance fleet and history. Now, having the Ford fleet program at the yard, they have a certified CNG mechanic on site who was doing maintenance on the vehicle and had asked if an inspection had been done. And we said, no, of course we would like to have that done, make sure that's done. And he was able to do that with his certification and knowledge and was able to discover and verify for us that, yes, indeed, those tanks were expired. So that kind of explains a little bit why the staff previous to that were not certified CNG mechanics and really didn't have the knowledge or know-how to really do that type of investigation on the vehicles.
So who was doing the maintenance on these CNG vehicles if our staff wasn't qualified to do it?
Well, so most of the maintenance and repair work would go outside to like an auto dealer or something like that, and they would just take care of the issues that we requested them to do. We had never requested a CNG inspection of the vehicles because the staff just wasn't aware that that was required. So we do know that now, and now with the new program in place, we have a means of doing those inspections regularly and to be able to stay on top of that. And as part of our vehicle replacement program, this will be written into that so that we'll know that there's a due date that this stuff needs to be checked by, so this type of thing won't happen again.
Are there any other vehicles that our staff's not qualified or that we don't have a process of finding out whether or not they're safe?
No, this would be the only vehicles that we would have that type of issue with, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you do recall, we're not actually maintaining our vehicles anymore, too. That's the other part. We are having an outside provider do it.
Well, I know, and that's the only reason we know about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's frustration on my part. Have they inspected all our vehicles? I mean, that's why I'm not clear what the training is of our previous staff now and their ability to deal with all our vehicles. I mean, how are we doing that? I mean, are all our vehicles okay? Can someone assure me that all our vehicles have been inspected?
I guess the question is, do we have any other CNG vehicles?
Not just CNG, I mean, any kind of vehicle that they might not be qualified to do or not know about or oversight.
So one of the benefits of the new fleet maintenance program is to do much more of a preventative maintenance plan, much more of a thorough check of our vehicles, and really to give us the assurance and the peace of mind for that. So the first few months of this implementation, we've ran all of our vehicles through this more comprehensive review of where we stood with that, and also the development of the vehicle replacement plan that we're working on. We wanted to know exactly what the value and life of our vehicles were, what type of condition and shape they were in, to know how soon they would be due for replacement. So
there are no other vehicles that have these kinds of issues?
No, none that we're of, no. Everything looks good for now. So
does anyone else have any questions on this item? Mr. Toma?
Yeah, so these vehicles are now part of they're inputted in are they part of the vehicle replacement plan? Like I believe a while ago there was a plan to know where our vehicles are, and I assumed it was by miles miles that they'd used already or something like that, are they part of that so that at some point they will be due for replacement?
Well, yeah, the new vehicles will be. So we put together, I think it's a 10-year plan, right, that we put together?
Yeah, there's a plan that has different criteria for the type of vehicle. So vehicles like this would be expected to be 10 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes sooner. And then you'd have a more comprehensive review done, and then if the condition and repair history of the vehicle is good, then we would have reasons to defer that to a much further date. Just at that point, we would need to do a more comprehensive review and check of the vehicle to see if it's worth continuing the maintenance on a vehicle that has reached that age or mileage.
So the good news is that nobody got hurt and that this got caught. The other good news is that we're not having to use general funds money for this, and there was some money in the special fund. The bad news is that that money could have been used for something else, like the infrastructure for alternative vehicles, et cetera. Now we're having to use it for this, correct?
Well, that's correct. But again, these funds are limited only for air pollution emission reductions and so forth. So you can only use it for purchase of alternative fuel vehicles, infrastructure, and so forth. But staff has been active in going after those grants too. So we normally use this AB 2766 as our local match for those grants.
Do these tanks have expiration dates? Because you mentioned 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
And stuff, but do these have expiration dates like 2006, 2000? So those would be entered in, not necessarily 100,000, right?
Correct. Yeah, that would be as part of that criteria that we would do within that range. So typically CNG tanks are good for 10 to 15 years. So that's why at the 10-year mark we would do that review and check to make sure everything that we've got a plan.
Well, if there's an expiration date, the expiration date should be in the
that would take precedence over the other criteria.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Wu?
Yeah, a quick question. Okay, I understand. So this $363,000 not come from the general fund. This fund from special just for potential for infrastructure or the vehicle we purchase. Am I right? Yeah, right.
That's correct. It's a combination of AB 2766 and
got
sewer.
it. Okay. So you have to purchase this kind of vehicle. My concern is how you prioritize. Okay. Should we spend the money to buy this 6th truck, or using this money for something just like Councilman Toma talking about? So maybe we can use this for something else. So what's your decision that we have to replace this 6th vehicle? Do we have enough vehicle right now to manage to operate in the city?
Well, we don't. That's why we need to replace them. So part of the thought process is to be able to replace the 8 vehicles that we can't even use right now. And we have a new CNG fueling facility that will not be fully utilized if we don't replace these trucks.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Is there a motion? Mr. Tomey, you pulled this?
Yeah, thanks. I'll move to take the actions listed here, including the resolution number 2018-53.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Toma and seconded by Mr. Warshaw. Is there any more discussion? Is there any objection to consent? It's approved 5-0. Item number 16 was pulled by Mr. Toma. He wanted a report. Yeah.
Thank you. Just a brief report. I know that the PACE program's come up. I think a lot of residents and businesses probably have never heard of it. So if you could just give a brief report about what this is and why this is being recommended for an additional entity as part of that program.
So the Property Assessed Clean Energy, or PACE program, it's designed to improve energy efficiency for residential and commercial buildings through the installation of energy and water efficient and renewable energy projects that are permanently fixed to the property. Some of the examples of projects that are available for this program, they include energy efficient HVAC systems, insulation of existing walls and attics, rooftop solar PV systems, electrical vehicle charging stations, low consumption water closets, and smart irrigation systems. So participation of property owners is 100% voluntary. The property owners will work with an agent to select the right project and secure funding from the approved lenders. The amount borrowed by the property owners will be assessed on the annual property tax bill of the property to be repaid. So there are currently several PACE programs that have been approved by the City Council, including the Western Riverside Council of Governments. It's the California Hero Program, the service providers for residential. They include California First Program, Hero Residential Program. For commercial, it's PACE funding, SAMAS Commercial Program, Spruce Finance Program, and Greenworks Commercial Program. We also have the Los Angeles County PACE Program, which the providers for residential are Hero and California First. For commercial and multifamily, it's Commercial PACE. At the last couple council meetings, Council approved the California Statewide Communities Development Authority, or CSCDA, Open PACE program. The residential service providers are Alliance NRG, California First, PACE Funding Group, Spruce, Renovate America. Commercial, it's Counterpoint SRE program, California First, Clean Fund Commercial PACE Capital. Council also approved California Municipal Finance Authority, or CMFA. The providers are Energy Efficient Equity for residential. For commercial, it's Blue PACE, Structured Finance, On PACE Energy Solutions, Petros PACE, Twain Financial, and SAMAS. California Enterprise Development Authority, or CEDA, is the Fig Tree PACE program, and the provider is Dividend Finance. The item before you tonight, it's for Golden State Finance Authority, and the provider is Y-Green. Regarding some of the projects that have already been approved here in the city, we pulled some information, and right now the only information available was from the HERO program. There have been a total of 1,700 applications that have been submitted. 1,200 have been approved. A total of 586 projects have been completed. Total amount of funding that have been made available is 16.4 million. And it also has some information on the amount of energy saved, such as 81.9 kilowatt hours, emissions reduced 21.1 kilotons, water saved 50.
So these are basically low interest loans for energy efficient upgrades to homes and businesses, correct? Okay.
That's correct.
Those numbers were actually larger than I expected, so I guess that's a good sign. And if people want to find out, people or businesses want to find out more information, they can go to where on our website, or where can they find more information about these entities that offer these programs?
We will definitely have the information on our website, but once the resident or the property owner is interested in securing funding for any of these types of projects, they work directly with the providers.
Mr. Tillman, if I can add, under our housing programs online, we do have information about the PACE program. So we have seen that folks who contact us about the home preservation program, that sometimes they need more work than with the $10,000 loan that the city is willing to offer. So they look into the PACE program as another alternative as well.
Anything else? Just now, all the PACE programs, there's new laws that were passed that require certain disclosures. And live sign-off from homeowners, because homeowners in the past, some of them weren't getting the full scoop on the impact to their home equity, et cetera, when they did these kinds of loans. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's a representative from Y-Green here can confirm it, but I believe they also tape the conversations for the verification.
That's correct. I think that's everyone now, right? Okay. Mr. Toma, is there a motion?
Yeah, thank you. I'll move to adopt the two resolutions as stated here in the staff report, resolution number 2018-54 and number 28-55 with respect to Golden State Finance Authority and the PACE program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Toma and seconded by Mr. Warshaw. Any more discussion? Okay, any objection to consent? It's approved 5-0. Item number 19, Mr. Warshaw, you asked for this to be pulled.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is to release the bonds for the Oak Creek project off of Holt Avenue. They have completed all phases, but I had a couple of issues with that, and I don't know that we need to not give this bond back because I think there's a warranty program for 1 year. Am I correct on that, Tina?
That's correct, Councilman Warshaw. As part of any development project, before we release the payment bond and the faithful performance bond, we ask the developer to submit a warranty bond, which is normally good for a year, that if there are any defects or problems on the construction of the development, then they come back and fix those.
Okay, so two issues have come up. One is on the backside of the project where the fire exit is. I guess they were using that for construction before they put the gate in there, and they put asphalt into the curb, into the gutter portion of the curb. So water stores there, so it gets old and moldy. So I don't think that's there so the fire engines can get up, so I think that needs to be removed. And secondly, on their main entrance on Holt, just west of that main entrance, the curb is already coming up. So I need to make sure that both of those things get fixed.
Go on. Oh, I was just going to say, we can work with the developer to make sure that those problems are fixed, and if worst comes to worst, that we have to fix it ourselves, we can take it out of that warranty bond.
Okay, thank you.
If council feels more comfortable, we always hold this item over until the city attorney and Mr. Kasunia reaches out to them to make sure the work is done. It's up to you guys.
I don't think, if we have the warranty bond, I don't think there's really any reason that we need to hold that over.
Is that a motion then, Mr. Warshaw?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Warshaw, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion on this item? Any objection to consent? It's approved 5-0. Okay, item number 20 is a extension of our public hearing. By the way, that concludes our consent calendar. Our public hearing that was continued from our last meeting on West Covina Active Transportation. We had already closed public comment. We did have 2 people during public comment that did address this briefly. We also have cards, so I'm going to go ahead, unless there's an objection from the council, go ahead and reopen the public part of it and call on the people who submitted speakers or yellow cards, and then we'll go back and see if there's a consensus from the council to approve something. So we'll start with Union UN again, and then to be followed by Elsa Huzar. And please tell us, since I don't know for sure, if you're opposing the entire active transportation plan, a portion of it, or supporting a part of it, or what you're doing. Please tell us.
Good evening, council members. I am Lyndon Nguyen. You have all met me before. I oppose of this act because we've worked so hard to close it, and it'd be a disappointment to see it open again. Just in the recent months, we have been quiet, and it's been a nice being able to sleep at night without somebody screaming and yelling and having to call the police department. They have tried setting up again where the path is on Walnut Creek on the other side where the walkway is. But within a week, it does get shut down by our police department, and I do thank them for that. If this path opens again, I know we're trying to be green and we're trying to, be friendly with the environment and everything, but West Covina will just become tent city. We're trying to grow our city, not make it something that we don't want it to grow. And I see so much potential in our city, being born and raised here, being a resident, having West Covina take our family with open arms. I mean, we were the first Vietnamese family that was settled in West Covina. So, I've seen our ups and our downs, and we're going up, and I only want to continue for us to go up. So I definitely oppose this. This is coming from somebody who lives, directly behind the wash and hearing everything, and this peace of mind that we've been able to have these last couple months have been very, very good. So thank you.
Thank you. Elsa Huzar, if I said that right, followed by Jim Grivich.
Hi, my name is Elsa. I'm here to talk about the Walnut Creek Wash. I live right on the other side, not on this side. And like this lady said, it's been quiet. When it was open, all kinds of noise, especially the dogs at night, early in the morning, and the homeless people. I've had one that was right on my other side of the fence, a couple, and I told them they're not supposed to be there. They left, but if you open it, it's just going to be, they're going to be camping out right there. And I had my house broken twice, and some kids on the other side, they have like a little ditch. They go in there, and teenagers, they sit there. All you can see is their heads, but you know, they're smoking weed, doing whatever. And I had some rocks thrown across the wash. They broke my windows. So I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Grivich, followed by Kevin Chan.
Jim Grivich. I spoke against this at the last public hearing, and I'm not going to repeat what I said then. Other folks are actually saying those things. But I did want to speak about the budget aspects of this, which was not stressed the last time. Remember, we've been talking about we don't have enough money to do what we already do. Yet here we are talking about building a new project that require new expenditures for maintenance and police work. And yet we don't have enough money to do what we're already doing. It's nonsensical. You don't have new projects to spend more money when you don't have enough. It's that simple. Thank you.
Kevin Chan, followed by Rachel Chan.
To the Honorable Mike Spence and the other council members, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to speak here. Yeah, is this better? Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here and for taking consideration into all our needs as you're considering your final decisions on this backwash. I just wanted to give 3 positive benefits that I have experienced through the time of the closing of the gate in November of 2016. On the one hand, for one, basically I get more sleep. You know, you're dealing with people in the back, and I remember a moment in my time when I was in my room, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm getting people spilling at each other, fighting, and saying F words, and it's just really tough to sleep. But now, after the gate is closed, I'm able to actually get more sleep, 7 hours a day, and possibly even function at work and do a better job. Secondly, I really appreciate that you close the gate because now it gives the police officers some way to reinforce any violations. When people cross over, if something happens, people can be able to call them, and I feel much more confident and safe to be able to call and say, hey, you know, there's somebody back behind that watch, we need to take care of that. And I believe they're able to force that. Before, they were not able to do that, and they asked us to come to the city specifically to talk to you. The third thing that I would like to say, the third positive benefit, is that just in general, our community seems a lot safer, so many of us feel more adequately ready to settle in to the community. And because of that, and all our efforts putting together, and you coming to our homes and looking at the backwash and making that decision, we're really, I feel, more connected. We're able to function and not have to focus on the back and worry about our safety. We're able to look at the front and worry about the future and think about education and other issues. So thank you so much for your efforts. And this is a thank you, long time coming. Please keep the gate closed. Please respect the voice of the people. Thank you.
Rachel Chan. Rachel Chan, followed by Sally Rainham. Did I say it right?
Good evening, Mayor Spence, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, and Council Member
Rachel. It's just really good to be here tonight. On behalf of my neighbors, I would like to again thank the council for listening to our concerns about the Walnut Creek Wash in 2016. And also to remind you that you voted unanimously 5-0 to close the gate for the section for the public safety of our neighbors. And we truly believe that in unity, we can accomplish good for the city of West Covina. We also understand that the government, also the lady from the Heart Association, is encouraging cities to create alternative transportation routes, such as bike path and walkway for better living. And it's a great idea, and I have nothing against that. But I think, if you look at example, a bike trail that is done right is the Santa Fe Dam. It's a San Gabriel River Trail. It starts in Santa Fe Dam. It runs all the way to Seal Beach. It's a 32.5-mile run. That trail is done right because it's an open space. It's not attached to any residential area. And actually, one of the journalists quoted saying that it's a bike path that many residents will rank among the best in Los Angeles. So given an example, the question I think we should ask each other, it's not, whether we should have a bike path. We should. The question is Walnut Creek Washway the ideal choice for our city? Have you recently visited or seen the wash? I do, every day, because I have to drive past the wash every day. So let me tell you what I see. First of all, it's not a scenic route, because we have barbed wires on the fence. And you know what's in the wash? Trash, algae if we have water, and shopping carts. So I think even takes county very difficult effort to even maintain the wash, because they can't, how often do they actually get down to the wash to pull the shopping cart up? So it's not really a scenic route. And in addition to that, as many of my residents have shared, that our city is still trying to address the ongoing concern of the homeless people. Recently, I attended a meeting that was hosted by our city to address how the residents can help with this growing social concern. I believe Councilman Warshaw was there. And right now, according to what I know, is that our city has designated 2 officers to deal with the homeless. Now, we're talking about a city with more than 120,000 residents, 2 officers. That tells you the limited power that we have. A few weeks ago, I actually called the police department to report camps in terms of homeless people that were sitting on the north side of the wash, because now the south side's gated, so they're setting up camp on the north. It took the city several weeks to clean that up and to remove it. The reason is because they moved them out within a day, they moved right back in. So there's really no enforcement once you have an open space. So I guess once the wash is open, the backyard fence, if you ever lived in the along the Walnut Creek Wash, our backyard fence is a perfect, ideal site for them to pitch tent, which has happened to us for the last 7 years. So they just put their blankets, their cloth, whatever, they attach it to our fence, and they pitch the tent during the day. So that's, I think by opening that, what we're asking is that do we want that Walnut Creek Wash to become a tent city? Because we do not have the officers, the staff to take care of and even escort them out. And even if you find them, they have the money to pay for it. So you can't really force them to leave that area. So I did actually today, I did take a look at the active transportation plan. According to the proposed bicycle network in the West Covina, there are actually many good suggestions for bike path. Again, one of the goals actually in the plan, it was to provide public safety. So as a city, we need to create bike path at locations that are safe, both for the residents and the cyclers. So once again, please revise to remove Walnut Creek Washway from the proposed bike network. We hope you choose to, be wise and listen to us and really to honor the decision that you made in 2016, especially our area, which is the busiest transit in West Covina. If you open that wash, you are affecting hundreds of people's lives in a really miserable way. So we come here and we wanted to bless you. We wanted to let you know that, we're here to support you when you make the right decision. So thank you for serving and thank you for listening to us. And truly, we are grateful for the right things that you're doing for our city. Blessings to you and your family. Thank you.
Sally Rainham, am I saying that right? Rainham?
Mayor and council members. My name is Sally Raynham. My name is Sally Raynham, and I'm making comments regarding the West Covina Active Transportation Plan and the use of the wash for bike lanes or trails, okay? I've been a resident of West Covina since 1981. Where I live on West Covina Parkway is between Azusa and Hollenbeck Avenues. The culvert, Walnut Creek culvert, backs right up to my backyard, okay? I'm not in favor of any bike trails, walking trails, or any other kind of trails being developed along the culvert. And I would agree with the woman before me. It's not an attractive area at all. If you have ever seen when the water is rushing through that culvert, it is nothing to mess with, okay? And if you have people there for whatever reason falling into the culvert, oh, there's no saving them. When it's raining, boom, it's gone. In the 1980s, I've been woken up many times by police arresting people in my front yard, okay, with spotlights on them. The particular individuals were sitting on the curbs, and that happened at least 3 times in the 1980s. My house has been broken into at least once. 2 years ago, when we had to have my house tented for termites, when they came to take the tent off, they found a slit in the back of the, we call the tent, about 6-foot slit. So obviously someone had come into my backyard and was looking at my property and into my house to see if there was anything to be taken. Now, we had gone ahead and removed everything from our house that was valuable, but that took a lot of time and effort on our part to do that. Last Tuesday, May 8th, at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, we had a woman driving a Odyssey van, Honda Odyssey van, apparently under the influence. She drove the van up into the yard of the house, of the corner house opposite our house, took down 2 small palm trees, hit that particular person's car, smashed into it, and then apparently this is what we can figure out, she backed up right into my property, completely sideswiped my van, totaled it, and crashed into the right side of my garage. Took the corner out of my garage in about 4 feet of the stucco wall of my garage. So the question that I have is, why would I want people biking or walking just outside the perimeter of my yard when all these things have happened in my front yard? Okay. It is known that people are often involved with drugs, riding on bicycles. Okay, I have people tell me that. People apparently know those kind of things. And it is easy for people to climb over the fence and go into my backyard. And I don't want to encourage the possibility of the houses being broken in, especially from the backyard when nobody can see. So I have enough trouble trying to keep my house safe in the front yard. I certainly don't want people coming up around my backyard. And I'm not the only one who feels this way, okay? Other people in the neighborhood along Walnut Creek Wash feel this way also. So thank you for considering my comments. Okay.
Ms. Jimenez? Is there anybody else that wants to address the public hearing? Because this is the last one, I just got this. You filling out another one? No. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, first and foremost, I am here in support of the ATP, but why am I here? Let me just quickly get a few things off my chest, as well as who I am. I'm, one, a big car guy. Love my cars, drive a Mustang, had Mustangs for years, so I love my American-made cars, so you'll always catch me in my American-made cars. But at the same time, I also own a couple bikes. I'm proud to own one is the Trek Madone. It's a full carbon bike, American-made, which I ride up and down these streets every weekend, which has taken me to this next part of my story. Why do I ride a bike? I don't ride for leisure. I don't ride just to look at the scenery. I ride because of necessity. Unfortunately, a health situation has put me where I'm at today, which is riding a bike. I've gone through extensive knee surgeries, knee reconstructions that I cannot sit here and tell you or the members of the community how painful they were. But think of it this much, I was in a bed for months. Coming out of the surgery and in rehab, going back to my doctor, all the work that was done to try to preserve the life of my knees didn't really work. So what was left for me was to sit on a bike. That's all I can do. I can't run. I can run my mouth, but I can't run. He said the best way you're going to ever be able to attain some level of health or exercise is on a bike. And so I ride. I've ridden everything from a class 1, 2, 3 trail all the way to this Cheryl. And believe me, I've even ridden on a Scarrow, if you've ever seen one of those. Chances are you haven't, because those are the roads where you cross over a bridge and there's very little space for the cyclist to pass by. So you're constantly riding, looking back like this, like I am at the audience. It's scary. The ATP, I understand, may not be necessarily perfect. I understand that, and I get it. But a lot of work has gone into it. The wash is very contentious. I get it. I once rode that wash for many years when it was open. I would pull my kids on a little trailer up and down that wash, and I had the courtesy, if I saw trash or something, I would pick it up. I understand the conditions have changed today. I hope it's not going to fall on me for being the cyclist, and I hope that in the near future, this secondary issue because of the homeless situation on the wash somehow gets addressed. I don't want to say eradicated, but somehow addressed in a way that we're able to move forward to establish or at least look at some sort of alternatives in the future. What I don't want to see this evening, though, is mortgage away a lot of the good work that has gone into the ATP. Again, I'm a fair guy. I'm willing to understand and respect that maybe there's not a good idea to put a Scarrow on Azusa Avenue. I'm willing to compromise that. To the public, I'm willing to say, yeah, the wash is a contentious issue. I understand your situation. I live only less than a quarter mile away, according to my computer on the bike, from the wash. And I understand and I respect that, but please, let's not give up on the ATP yet. Let's not mortgage away a future possibility for the residents, my kids, to use a network of bikes. Again, I will still continue to use my cars day in and day out, but I need those bike trails. It's for my health. Thank you.
Concludes our public comment part. If that's okay, I'll go ahead and close it again. We're at council discussion or questions. As I recall, and please correct me, council, if I'm wrong, if I remember right, the only thing that we had the active transit plan before us, there was a majority vote to pull out the Azusa bike lane along with the
bike route along Azusa and the bike lane along
Aroma Drive that
yes.
led into it. There was a majority vote to take that out of the active transportation plan. Yes. I don't think there was a vote. The other votes dealt with approving the plan with deletions, and those all failed. And so at this point, I would like to make a motion that we delete the Walnut Creek Parkway wash from that plan, and then we can have a discussion about the rest of the plan after that. But I'd like to make that motion that we delete that. If there's a second.
I'll second that one.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do anyone want to discuss it? Okay. Do a roll call vote, please, I guess.
Toma? Aye. Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Spence?
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. So that means we have in front of us a possibility of an active transportation plan that pulls out the Azusa, Pike Lane, along with Aroma Drive, and then takes out the Walnut Creek Parkway. So is there any other motions, or what's the action of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I would
Yes,
like to make
Mr.
a motion
Johnson.
to eliminate Azusa and Roman Drive from the active transportation.
Already done. It's already done.
Oh, it's already done?
Yep.
They said it wasn't.
That was the one thing we decided on at the last meeting.
Well, I want to make sure it's done.
Yeah, so.
Okay, we're done then.
If there's any objection to killing it again, no, it's dead. So that's part it.
You can move the plan.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that could be, yeah.
Yeah, I'm next. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Johnson.
Then I'd like to move the remainder of the plan forward.
Okay.
I'll second it.
There's a motion from Mr. Johnson and a motion and a second from Mr. Warshaw to approve the plan with the deletion of those two items. Mr. Wu, you had a comment?
Yes. I would say no, okay, because last time my motion will be not only the, okay, Azusa, including the Sunset. Okay, I don't think Sunset is safe, okay, to have a bike route or bike, okay, road. Another thing, last time talking about the elementary school, okay, because it's not safe, okay, for our children to ride a bike. I never see during the rush hour, I see any children riding the bike to go to the elementary. So last time I was talking about the deletion of elementary school to have any bike route, bike symbol, because every time you put a bike symbol, you kind of, it's a trap. Like, okay, this is safe to ride over there. So this is what, okay, what I want. But I have a couple questions. Can I have a question?
You may.
Okay. The question is about this. Okay, we have this active transportation okay plan. Okay, and now I know this is come from our grant, so we need to do this, including the bike road is what you told me is a requirement. Otherwise, we won't get a grant. So we get a grant, we get the free money. So just like the downtown plan, if we have that, who's going to pay for the future, the maintenance, okay, and security in case, okay, we have some issue? Do we have additional, okay, costs for that? And due to the budget crunch, okay, do we have the money for that? So maybe city manager can answer that question.
Sure. What Councilmember Wu is alluding to is that cities are being required to adopt these active transportation plans in order to seek state funding or even perhaps even federal funding for street projects around the community to promote active transportation. There is no impact to the general fund by doing so. We do have a variety of transportation funds that can be and will be utilized for these type of projects if approved by the City Council.
Do you have another question, Ms. Wu? Thank you. Okay. Is there any more discussion on this item? Okay. There's a motion on the table. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote. Before that happens, though, I'm going to vote opposed. I'm going to oppose this. You know, I had, by the way, there was one other correction. You're going to control the busing issue. It was going to be corrected in there too, the bus facts. But you know, this plan spends $5 million, you know, on biking stuff, and leads to a total of 500 more bikers, you know, over a 20-year period, and that just doesn't seem cost-effective to me. And there's some other problems with the plan as well, so I'll be voting no. But let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye.
Spence?
No. The plan's approved 3-2. Item number 21. You want to take a break? Let's take a break, please. Let me take a break. Okay, if we can get everybody back, we'll get back. Okay, well, call this meeting back to order after that sip of Diet Coke. Item number 21. Item 21, this is Mr. Thoma's item on independent expenditures regulations.
Yeah, thank you. This is a request to adopt or ask the city attorney staff to come back with an ordinance with respect to independent expenditures. This is a big issue with respect to understanding who's funding campaign information in our city. It's particularly a problem with independent expenditures because there are no limits to independent expenditure spending, and who is paying for these things makes a big difference to the average voter's ideas with respect to how they feel about a given set of information. If they know who's behind a certain flyer, campaign mailer, it helps them with more information. Also helps understand who's funding these things. We talk about transparency all the time. This is part of it to show that we actually believe in transparency, and so it would come back with something that required reporting and the filing to the city clerk when independent expenditures are made, and then also require disclosures on the campaign pieces themselves with respect to who's the top contributors are to that. I think that'll improve transparency. Our residents and voters will benefit from it, and that is why I asked for something to be done on this issue.
Okay. Is there actual direction on what you want to do? Yeah. I mean, right now, can I just clarify? Right now, independent expenditures do have to register with the city, do they not? Or do they? If someone does an independent expenditure, do they file with the city?
They're required to file the forms if they spend $1,000 or more.
So right now, the requirements are that independent expenditures have to file forms if they spend $1,000 or more. Okay, so that part is already an ordinance or part of our law, whatever.
Right,
so
we
what
can
is, so
change
the question
those
is,
amounts.
The question is with the disclosure or the disclosure of the top 2 donors and those kinds of issues, and we'll talk about what that actually means. So do you have a proposal? Yeah,
so my proposal would be to, that is fine, the $1,000, if that is a threshold for the state, to make sure that gets filed with the clerk, and then we have a process for getting those posted, and also a process for whoever wants to sign up for an e-notification. We have these e-notifications for various items that someone have the ability to sign up for the e-notification. So as soon as those get filed, that they be posted timely. I think there's like there's a 24-hour rule with respect to filing these items, correct, for the independent expenditures that hit the $1,000 threshold. And so I would ask that.
Within a certain window, there's a 24-hour reporting.
So within the existing state law, whatever the existing state law is, to be consistent with that, probably makes it simpler. That if there's that, for those expenditures that are made within that that hit that $1,000 threshold, that when they get filed with the city clerk, that we post those within the next business day and have a means for which the people who've asked for that information get notice of that posting. So with respect to that portion of it, that is my proposal. The other portion of it is the disclaimer portion of it about the top 2.
If I could, right now we do post those on our website. They are required to be filed within 24 hours of a $1,000 expenditure. The statute is not as crystal clear as it perhaps might be in terms of the timing, because it is either at any time if you are clearly advocating for or against the nomination, election, or passage or against a specific candidate or a ballot measure, and it does not seem to be time limited. It does say, though, also, or anything that does that within 60 days of an election date. So in theory, it could be an independent expenditure which would be subject to disclosure within 24 hours, even if it was longer in advance than 60 days of an election if it very clearly advocated for or against the nomination, election of a particular person, or a ballot measure.
Well, I think we should at least do the minimum of what the state law requires. Can that be clarified to say that it is, to make it more clear that it is not limited by the 60 days, if that's one interpretation of what the state law is?
I think so. If you look at the code changed in the last year to explain a lot more about what they consider a reportable expenditure under state law now. So we could.
Oh, yeah, but that, if I understand what the first part of Mr. Toma's request is that within the confines of the state law, which you said has been more clarified now, that we have a system of making sure those things are posted in a timely fashion and an e-notice as well, right? System of requirements, is that right?
That is correct about the posting and notification, but if there is any ambiguity in the law about whether or not that it is within 60 days or it's not limited by that 60 days, I say that we should take the interpretation and clarify that it is, if somebody's clearly taking a position with respect to the advocacy for a particular candidate, a particular issue, that it's not limited by the 60 days.
We can certainly do that if the council gives us direction to move forward with a specific ordinance.
I guess the question would be, how would we notify people doing independent expenditures, since we don't know who they are, how they would
we would publish our ordinance, and it would be applicable the same way that we notify people of the passage of all of our laws. We would also, we publish it in the newspaper, and I'm sure the city clerk would also have that information available for all filers as well.
How many people did independent expenditures in the last election cycle? How many groups? I assume there were the unions, right? There were at least 2 unions,
Yes,
2, 3
there were quite
unions.
a few. I would say between 5 to 10.
5 to 10?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, because I don't have a problem with the transparent problem. I'm just trying to figure out how this would work with independent expenditures, because West Covina is I mean, especially since we're moving to November 2018 elections, we're a small animal in the big independent expenditure pie. I mean, that's just, I mean, there's going to be tons of independent expenditures in November 2018, so how would we make sure that was done? That's all.
We're only able to regulate for local elections.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, you know, this is the issue with, you know, sometimes people that don't understand independent expenditures is that there are independent expenditure committees that are just for example, the city of West Covina, you know, and they only do expenditures in the city of West Covina. Those are easy. The problem is when you have statewide organizations that do independent expenditures, you know, they may not be tracking how they're supposed to do stuff within the city of West Covina, because city of West Covina, you know, they spent $900 and then they spent $200 and they suddenly went over the $1,000 threshold. You know, that kind of stuff. And so they do the filings. I'm just trying to figure out how they figure out all the other stuff.
But that part is no different than it is now, right?
Well, that part isn't, but Mr. Thomas asked me to clarify that.
Right. Many local jurisdictions do have their own rules about independent expenditures. We're explicitly authorized to do that. I mean, all I can say is that the committees that are expending that money are obligated to find out what the laws are in the jurisdictions in which they publish.
I mean, if you're going to get involved in our city election, usually the first thing that you would want to know is what are the rules in that jurisdiction for what, you know, you're going to spend more than $1,000 you would want to know what are the rules in the local jurisdiction. So I don't think it's going to be a deterrent to anyone, and it's something that they should be looking for anyway.
I don't think it's a deterrent. It's a question about enforcement. And that's where you said the law's been clarified. So if the law's been clarified, what is the ambiguity that's the issue here?
No, I said the law was changed.
Okay. So if the law's been changed, then what's the ambiguity?
The way I read it, it is either 60 days before or any time if you are specifically advocating for the nomination, election.
Oh, okay.
So it's
so no matter what, within 60 days.
Within 60 days, absolutely. But
okay.
But it doesn't appear to me to be limited to the 60 days anymore.
Right. You're saying that it's even more stringent, that it could be any time if they start doing it 120 days out.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Then I don't see. Do you see the problem? Do you see the ambiguity? I don't see the ambiguity.
Well, My understanding is that you're not limited by the 60 days.
Yeah,
so if that's
right.
the case, then there's no ambiguity.
Yeah. I don't see, okay. So I don't think that's an issue anymore. Is it, Mr. Thomas? I'm fine with it.
I'm understanding this from what she just
I'm
said. That
too.
we heard the same words that
I'm just
she
making
just
sure you and
said,
I
yeah.
understand the same thing, I guess. If I understand it, right now there's reporting requirements within 60 days or any time
Or
you spend
anytime
overtime.
yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Okay, I'm fine. I can live with the state law on that. So that's the first part of your motion, and then we'll talk about the second part?
Yes, and then the second part is the top two, just as it's...
Well, can we do the first part? Because I'll agree with you on the first part, and the second part I want to discuss, probably.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
So...
Yeah. Okay, so I'll make a motion to have the, any independent expenditures that hit the $1,000 threshold consistent with state law filed with the city clerk's office within 24 hours, and that we have them posted publicly by next business day, and have a system to notify of such filing for anyone who signs up through our e-notification system.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion on that item? Is there any objection, consent on that item? Okay, that's approved 5-0. Okay, Mr. Tillman, the second part?
The second part is the requirement for the disclaimer of the top two contributors for independent expenditures that get that have campaign literature information. In West Covina, there was actually a very recent example in a state Senate contest. I forget the name of the entity that did it, but it was some innocuous name that, you know, no one would, that sounded very favorable, like Californians for, you know, safety for everybody, or Californians for peace, whatever it was. And then, but then if you look under it, you'll see the huge donations from the top corporate contributors. And so this is meant to give more information to the voters as to digging below the surface of essentially a name that means nothing to get at who's actually paying for these kinds of campaign mailers in West Covina. And so it would require the disclaimer of the top two contributors, just like this form that's done in LA that's attached to the staff report.
So is that, well, it's a little different. Los Angeles is on a different cycle than the rest of the state. So what exactly are you asking then? What are define the top two contributors?
I believe that Councilmember Chome is referring to the disclaimer requirements in the attachment.
Yeah, paid for.
So it's when communicated by a person it specifically identifies the top two contributors during this preceding
6 months prior to the payment to the IE in the amount.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, this is where I actually think this information can be very misleading. And I'll use the example of the state Senate race that you're talking about. If somebody donates in June to the state Senate, to whatever the community, what did you say it was? Committee for Safe Active Transportation or whatever, active transportation, and rainbows and puppy dogs. Someone contributes to that, and then in June, and then that committee does a piece in December, there's automatically, or in October in West Covina, there's a linkage between campaign donations that went to a committee in June or May for perhaps a completely different election cycle, different area, to a campaign in West Covina. And there's an implication which independent expenditures, donations and independent expenditures cannot be linked specifically to any particular campaign. That's against the law, to direct donations. And I gave the example before of an independent expenditure committee that I was involved with in the special election, the recall of Governor Gray Davis and the election of governor. And on those pieces, because of the donations we got under the regulation, we had to list the top two donations. One was Fieldstead and Company, Howard Amundsen Jr., that's who that is, and the Pechanga Band of Indian Tribes, because those were the top donations to that particular committee during that particular time period. Shortly after that, there was another election. We had to list those same disclaimer as we were, this independent expenditure committee, because none of these donations were linked, was attacking a friend of the chief of the Pechanga Band of Indians. Needless to say, they were very, very upset that their name was on this disclaimer. Not only that, it was very misleading because no money had been donated from them from that time period from the gubernatorial election to that committee. So I'm in favor of finding a way that people can get donations, but since we've moved our election to a November 2018, that situation is exasperated where, and actually, if somebody just wanted to hide the donations, all they have to do is give it after a piece has gone out. I mean, if a piece has gone out, if somebody thinks like a corporation or someone here in the city of West Covina wants to get involved, all they got to do is make sure they don't give the donations 6 months before. That's all they got to do. So it doesn't lead to more transparency. We have to figure out a way, in my view, that where people can go directly to the Secretary of State's website, where those things are supposed to be updated 24 hours, independent expenditures, on behalf of candidates, as well as donations to independent expenditure committees. That's the only accurate way to try to source this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to get situations where there's going to be a piece on behalf of somebody, and it's possible that the biggest donor was some guy in Placer County, because it's the Committee for Safety and whatever. And I don't think that helps anybody. I think it confuses the situation even more. The second question I have is, how is that going to apply to our public safety unions? Are we going to list the top 2 firefighters that donated to the firefighter PAC? If they're the top 2 donors? Top 2 police officers? I mean, is that what we're going to do or not? I mean, I kind of see some issues with that as well. I've never seen that done where a union had to list their top 2 contributors like that. But, I mean, I just don't think it gives true information to the voters of West Covina. It gives inaccurate information, and it has the potential for even more abuse than the current system, because we're directing people to a donation that happened 6 months earlier that may have absolutely nothing to do with the independent expenditure people are getting. So, having been involved in independent expenditures, having done these disclaimers, you know, like I told you before, there was another campaign I was involved with. Insurance companies were giving a lot of money because of the campaign that committee decided to take on. The next election, falling within the 6 months, insurance companies weren't giving money, but they were getting blamed. They were getting blamed for something that they weren't paying for. And so it was actually misleading to people to tell people insurance companies were involved in this because they weren't. And so I just don't want to mislead people with a disclaimer that really doesn't intersect at what you're trying to get at. But is that your motion?
Yeah. So so a couple things on that. First, most independent expenditure committees, they work off the same types of industries or same type of companies. So it's going to be considered, most people who give understand that it's going to be disclosed in some fashion, whether it's the Secretary of State or whatever, and so they know that their name's going to be attached to this committee. And so they tend to give to committees that have a certain framework, certain criteria. These are, you know, we're the business-friendly group, we're the union group, whatever. They have a type and genre and a generally consistent criteria. Not to say some bizarre, random episodes can't happen. That can happen in any different kind of thing. But the vast majority of independent expenditure committees say, this is what we stand for, we support these kinds of candidates, so, and they get their donations for that. So it is going to generally, and for the most part, be consistent with the kinds of people who give to this particular independent expenditure committee. If it's a committee that is made up of corporations in the pharmaceutical industry, that is going to be some informative to voters. If it's from the tobacco industry, that's going to be informative to the voters. Yeah, unions, you know, this independent expenditure law has existed in LA for some time. Of course there are unions there, so of course they comply with that ordinance too. And I'm not worried about the unions because they are truthful. They disclose the fact that they are made up of peace officer firefighters. That's not the problem in West Covina, because you know who is funding that. In large part, they are police officers or firefighters or whoever it is. It's these other entities that come up with these innocuous names where people have no idea who's backing that or where it's coming from, and that is more the issue. So I don't think it's a problem. We talk about transparency all the time. If you know, and we're only talking about the biggest givers. So to the extent that you want to get involved in our campaigns, you want to use your money in a big way to support or oppose a candidate, that's part of the transparency. It's what the electorate expects.
again, I don't see how practically it actually, in some of these committees' cases, would actually inform people. You know, because let's say, and I think I've given you these examples. I know of a committee where they took money from the BIA because they were focused on different candidates. And their goals was, we want to get this candidate, we want to elect this candidate. So they went around to anybody who would support that candidate and took money. They also wanted to elect people in a different area. So ironically, they took money from the building industry of, you know, some area of California, right? And they were opposing the business industry association's candidate in another part of California, you know, because of the way they were focused on trying to raise money for campaigns. I just think there needs to be a better way to let people know how these IEs are funded than the top 2 donors, because I think it's misleading. And you can say it's transparent all you want, but it's still misleading. You can mislead with transparency. You could take the top 2 donors. If Athens is giving to a campaign IE, let's be honest, that's one of the ones we're probably talking about, right? That people want to know. It doesn't matter. If Republic gave more money, Republic is going to show up on that, you know, to that particular campaign, because it's not, you can't earmark the money. That's the problem. You can't earmark the money in the IE. So practically, I mean, you can pass this. That's fine. You've made a motion. Yeah. Is there a second for his motion? Second. It's just not going to practically lead to anything that, and actually can be misused by actually making sure there are campaign donations that would embarrass somebody and then do an IE on their behalf. Not that someone would ever do that, honestly. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion on this? Do a roll call, please.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
No.
Johnson?
Aye.
Spence?
No. Motion passes 3-2. Okay, we're on item number, that's going to come back to the actual ordinance, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, item number 22. It's a request from myself. Stanton passed this resolution after they were found to have abused taxpayer funds in passing a tax increase. And I'd like to move that we consider adopting a resolution prohibiting the use of public money in pursuit of higher taxes. If there's a second.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and second. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Toma.
Yeah, right. So the subject line, resolution regarding prohibiting the use of public money in pursuit of higher taxes, I mean, that is barred by existing law. You can't use public money to advocate for higher taxes. So if that is the idea behind this, then it is not going to accomplish anything, because you already can't do that. You can't use public money to advocate or oppose, I guess, any kind of, you know, tax measure. What the courts and the cases and the law says is that you can use public money to inform your constituency, the residents, what would be the impact of a measure that would raise or lower taxes, and that is how it ought to be.
Well, actually, the purpose of this is to define that, because a lot of jurisdictions actually hire pollsters to do polling on these kinds of issues, and then they use staff to go and communicate with them. It's beyond the education part of it. You know, if you say it's already existing law, then it wouldn't be a problem adopting this. But this actually defines public education and limits the ability of taxpayer money to be used to influence the electorate, especially in the case of higher taxes, which, as even Mr. Williams pointed out, you know, it's very self-serving to have money being spent from public agencies on behalf of that. Mr. Taxman, Mr. City Manager. Sorry.
Wow.
City Manager.
Interesting title, thank you. Just because as city manager I get invited to many of our civic groups and other organizations to make public appearances and speeches. If they ask me questions or ask me to make a presentation about items on the ballot in the community, does that mean we're not allowed to educate them and tell them what those matters are? I mean, we never go out there and advocate because we're not allowed to do that now. But as far as, you know, like Sunset Field, people ask us, okay, what is actually happening in that instance? And
Yeah,
so we share that.
actually, to promote something like that, that needs to be a city council person that does that on their own time. But if you look at the definitions in here, it's actually outlined in here. You won't use public money either internally through its own staff, treasury, or externally through the hiring of use of outside vendors to engage in public education, public opinion polling, or studies, or communications intended or may seem to intend to determine the outcome of political campaigns. I mean, that's pretty clear to me. The answers are, you can answer questions, but you can't go out there and advocate. You can't go out there and educate in things that will sway the electorate. And then you make those things available, you make those things in public places. Again, this is a Mother May I. It's been moved and seconded, so we'll see if we'll bring it back. The other thing is, by the way, is that it talks about cities that use lawsuits in order to silence people that are trying to expose some of this taxpayer use on behalf of measures. It's been done before. I mean, if you think, I could give you examples. Actually, Measure H is being investigated right now for that. So this makes it very clear that our staff won't be involved in passing tax increases and using our money to do it, taxpayer money to do it. But we'll see if there's 3 votes for it to come back, I guess. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Can I do a roll call vote, please?
Toma?
No.
Warshaw?
No.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
No.
Spence?
Motion fails. I do find it ironic that we're so concerned about IEs, but we're not concerned about taxpayer money going to elections. SB 174, it's a request for myself. This is a bill that would change the ordinance that was adopted by this city council in 2004 concerning who could serve on commissions. Because in 2004 it was changed to be limited to people who are registered to vote. This would change that to allow non-citizens to participate on our commissions regardless of immigration status. So I'd like to move that we take a position to oppose SB 174.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please. It's been moved by myself and second by Johnson.
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Spence?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0 to oppose. 24, this is Mr. Toma, AB 2538.
Yeah, thank you. I saw this had come out of the COG with respect to AB 2538, which was authored by Assemblywoman Rubio, who is our Assemblywoman, and it's with respect to the storm sewer problem that a lot of the cities are facing here in California. West Covina and some of these indicators and some of these reports that have come out would be one of the worse off in terms of the cost to the city to do all that might be required under that is being asked with respect to the stormwater issue. And so what this bill would do would be to require a financial capability analysis, and it has a pilot project with respect to that, so that the entities that have to review this would have to take into consideration essentially the city's ability to pay. I mean, just the numbers out there are astronomical and just impossible for some cities like our own to imagine doing something like that. And so with that kind of analysis, it would make for a more reasonable and practical effort to comply with this law. It makes sense. It was backed by the, I believe it said unanimously by the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, City of Glendora, and is considered, especially considering it's our own local lawmaker, I think we should issue a letter of support.
And that's a motion to support?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are you sure it was unanimous at the COG?
Oh, that's what it said. Is that not true?
No, it was. Yeah. Is there any objection to consent on this item? Okay, it's approved 5-0. Support. I was messing with you. Item number 26, reconsideration approval. Did I skip one?
25.
Oh, sorry, gotta get the train. Oh, 25. Mr. Warshaw, before we talk about this item, we had this issue with the business license thing that we talked about yesterday. It takes 4 votes to place this on the ballot. Is that correct, City Attorney?
Yes, sir, under Prop 62.
Yes. So, normally Mother May I's, it takes 3 votes to go ahead and draft it, but I think in this case, unless there's an objection from the council, it should take 4 votes before we spend money to draft something that's not going to end up being on the ballot. Does anyone disagree with that? Okay. So go ahead, Mr. Warshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked to look at this because we have been talking about the budget. And if you take a look at our budget and the shortfalls, my personal opinion is if we don't find a way to increase revenues, not just decrease, that this city will be bankrupt in probably within 24 months. So I want the people to recognize that. I want to give the people the option to look to see if they are willing to do what every other city in California has done that has its own police and fire. And that is to either do a local sales tax, a utility tax, or public safety tax. Personally, I don't like utility taxes, and I don't like public safety taxes because it can only be used the one way. I like a sales tax, local sales tax, because West Covina has 2 malls. Most of the people shopping there are not West Covina residents. So people coming into our city will be paying that. Yes, we'll pay more for cars, don't deny it, but we also want all of those services. I heard today we want these services. Most of those services will probably go away in the next 2 years if we can't find a way to increase revenues. Not from what we get from existing property taxes and sales tax. They don't even come close. If you take a look at our budget, what's caused those increased expenditures is primarily the cost of PERS and the cost of medical. And the overtime, although there is a lot of overtime, if you look at those costs of overtime, it's actually cheaper to have people work overtime than to hire new people. It's ridiculous, but that's the way it is. So I am looking to explore any of those to see, first of all, I'm not going to say a sales tax, a public safety, the other. Just is this council willing to?
There's a motion then to have staff bring back, research and bring back these 4 particular things here?
Right.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been seconded by Mr. Toma. Mr. Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a jump the gun. Okay, we are in the process of checking our budget. We're going through line by line, and last night, we asking for the detail. I think at least we have to go through the details, see all those numbers, okay? And now we go to the lazy way. Right away, say, let's raise the tax. Let's find out what this and that about. I understand we have financial stress, but at least we have to go through the system, go through the procedure, go through the process to see each line. We increased $6 million increased budget, okay, for next year. At the same time, with the 20% reserve, we have a $7.2 million of this jump. So we need to know what this $7.2 million jump is about before we just even try to raise people's taxes, okay? And we have so much taxes to our residents, especially for the fixed income, especially for all those, okay, senior. I think this is not fair, okay? At least we should hold it till we get all those details, okay? And we go through all those numbers, we go through with public hearing, and then we see what was next option before we even jump the gun right now to go to the raise the tax. So I'm 100% against this.
Okay, so that's not a motion to postpone it then? It's just a motion? No? Motion. Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, when I was campaigning some back time, one of the campaigns I talked about is I have no intention on ever raising taxes. First of all, when I first ran in 2013, we were in a different situation than we are now. 2015, we were still in a little bit too different situation than we are now. Unfortunately, we're in a different situation where I do believe that the revenue isn't fair enough to keep us sustainable. I would like to see us look into this. That's not saying we're going to pass it or we have it, but the process should be in motion. Then it can be postponed. Let the staff go through it. Let them come up with the ideas that we need. That doesn't mean we have to implement it. It means certain things that we can do now, it can be there. So if we do get the support to do it, if we realize we don't have the revenue there with the budget finally done, it can be implemented. So I would like to see it move forward just so we can do the background work on it and have the staff come back with the report.
Okay. Mr. Toma.
Yeah, and let me just, as a reminder, we don't have the power to impose taxes, right? This is purely this is not even putting it on a ballot yet. This is just doing research. And, you know, we've all been on the council for this couple of years. The budget situation is pretty clear, and we know that 75% of our general fund budget is police and fire. So if you're going to not make cuts, as the council majority has already made that decision, and you're not going to even look at revenues, you're talking about cutting police and fire. You cannot do that unless we get some sort of gift, one-time thing that, you know, out of the blue. Our general operating budget, we've seen over the last number of years, is not sufficient to keep at the levels. When I ran for council, we said public safety was a priority, and so we did. We increased the number of police officers. We had the budget at the time, and we don't have that anymore because the PERS costs have gone up millions of dollars. So you've got to choose. You've got to, and we have to do both, unfortunately, in terms of looking at this stuff, cuts and revenues. It is irresponsible not to even look at this. It is irresponsible not to even consider it. We're not saying you have to vote for it. We're not saying we'll ever impose it on people because we don't have the legal authority to do that. But to not even consider looking at it, we're not doing our job. We're not being responsible policymakers for that. To take it away, you know, to take it away from the people even looking at that option is just, I just see there's no excuse for that. So anyway, I urge you, this is not putting locking us in to any decision down the road. It's not. We can do this. We can look at the information. You can decide it's not worth it. It's not going to fix, cure the problem. You can always vote no later on, but to not even consider it would not be the responsible decision at this time.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Warshaw and seconded by Mr. Toma that we explore any one of these number 4 things, correct? Roll call vote, please.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye.
Spence?
No. Motion passes, but it fails because we need 4 votes to go forward with it. Okay. Item number 26. Item 26 is an item for reconsideration. It can only be reconsidered if one of the people in the majority vote moves it, and that would be either Mr. Warshaw, Mr. Toma, or Mr. Wu. Is there a motion on this?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I want to move the motions. Okay, the reason I want to move the motion for the reconsideration, because I went to the site a couple of times, and then I see those houses has all those red, this entire corner. I don't think it's fair, okay, I don't think it's really even, okay, safe, okay. I know the red curve is trying to keep the safety for the street, but end up due to the all those corner lot, they basically have no chance to park any places. So how can they park to unload their thing? So I think this kind of design wrong. So that's why I want to move the motion for reconsideration for those residents.
It's been moved to reconsider this item. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Johnson. Is there any more discussion? Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Toma?
No.
Warshaw?
No.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Spence?
Aye. Motion is reconsidered, so that means the motion on the table is to deal with the installation of red curb on Orange Avenue. Is there alternative direction to give the council or another motion? Mr. Johnson.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we go back over it and remove most of the red curbs except for the 15 feet around each corner, which should be sufficient enough from the corner 15 feet one way, the corner 15 feet the other way, instead of the 40 or 50 feet. That's on there. I think what happens, you give the residents...
Is there a second? Let's do a second.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved to second. Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
No, like I said, it gives the residents places where they can park their vehicles, and still at the same time, when you come off the side street or whatever, you can see traffic coming both ways. So that's my motion.
Moved to second. Any more discussion on this?
Yes.
Mr. Warshaw.
I'll be voting against this because according to the traffic study, we need more red curb than that 15 feet, and it will put the city in jeopardy if there is an accident there and cars are parked there and people couldn't see, that the city will become liable, which could cost the city millions of dollars. For that reason, I will be voting no.
Anything else? Anyone else? Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Toma?
No.
Warshaw?
No.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Spence.
Aye. Motion passes 3-2. Okay, that concludes our agenda. Does anyone have any items they want to place on the agenda? I do have one question I have, and I'd asked this question before about asset forfeiture money. A lot of cities have been doing the RING program or working with RING to subsidize getting RING, you know, people familiar with the system of RING, where they can then have photos. And actually, I know just a few days ago, I got emailed by somebody who had the ring, you know, the same person was robbing their house, and fortunately, CSO had recognized the car and busted them. So I know other cities are doing that. I know we don't have one-time money for it, but I want to know if asset forfeiture money can be used for that on some kind of limited program. If you can, I don't know if that needs to be Mother May I, or just let me know the answer or whatever.
No, we are already looking at that matter, and we'll get a response to the City Council. Great.
Does anyone have 1234 reports? I do want to report, I did go, even though it was not a paid meeting or anything, the City Selection Committee. And the one outcome of that is probably most important is the County Oversight Committee for the successor agencies has been reorganized. And the person who was elected by the cities that the group we are in is the Mayor of Pomona, Tim Sandoval. So, and I think I think it's a good call. I think he'll be good for the SOS committee in that sense. But anyways, so I wanted to report on that. Okay, seeing nothing else, we are adjourned at 10:10. Woo, 10:10.